The easiest way to understand stock buybacks are by using crazy numbers that are not realistic at all. So here we go with my analogy. I want you to imagine that a company goes public and they have 100 shares. That's it. Not a billion, not 100,000. They have 100 shares. That's not very realistic. In fact, I don't think it's ever been done. But let's say they have 100 shares. Those are shares outstanding. Those are publicly traded on the stock exchanges, and that's what's going on there. When a company no longer needs capital, when the company is up and running and they've been running for years and they're mature and they're a cash machine, they went public to raise capital, right? They went public to raise cash. Now they don't need cash. So what do? What's the purpose of a company? The purpose of a company is to reward shareholders. How do we reward shareholders? One of the ways a company does that is through stock buybacks. So let's say those 100 shares are outstanding in the marketplace and the company says, we've got some extra cash, let's reward our shareholders. Let's say for easy numbers that those 100 shares are held each, 1 share each, by 100 people. Again, this would never be the case, but let's say 100 people each bought 1 share each. And so they are all 1% owners of that company, right? I have 1 share. That means I am 1% owner of that company. 100% of the ownership is held by the shareholders. When a company goes public, the company does not own itself. It's owned by the shareholders. So when I have money, I'm up and running. We've been running for a while. We're cash flow positive. We're doing great. We want to reward our shareholders. One of the ways we do that is by going into the marketplace with those 100 shares. And just for easy numbers, this would not be the case, but just for easy numbers, let's say the company says, I want to buy back 50 of those shares. And this is where it gets tricky. People think, okay, if the company is going to do stock buybacks, then these are shareholders, and then the company owns a portion of itself. That is not the case. And this is the hard part to understand. When a company does stock buybacks, those stocks essentially go into the ether. And that's really hard to understand and really hard to comprehend. Why is the company spending billions of dollars a year on these stock buybacks for something that will vanish? It's difficult to understand. We'll talk about that in a second. But what happens when those 100 people that all owned 1 share each, 50 of them raised their hand in the stock market on the New York Stock Exchange or whatever stock exchange they're on and said, hey, I want to sell these shares. Awesome. The company buys those shares. They vanish into the ether. That's a technical finance term, vanish into the ether. Look it up, just kidding. And then what happens is now each of those existing 50 shareholders, instead of owning 1% of the company each, they now own 2% of the company each. Even though there are 50 shares, the company is still 100% owned by those 50 shareholders. And so if I'm a long-term holder of the stock of that company, and every quarter they're doing stock buybacks, every year they're doing stock buybacks, what happens is I own an infinitesimally larger portion of the pie. Arguably, those shares could and should be worth more and more and more. Now, it doesn't directly correlate to stock price. The company has no direct control of stock price. That's determined by the marketplace, right? That's determined by what people are willing to buy those shares for. That's what determines the stock price. But it points to the marketplace. In addition to owning or to giving those those shareholders a slightly larger portion of the pie, it also points to the marketplace. It signals to the marketplace, hey, we think our stock is undervalued. We're willing to buy it. So that shows it's undervalued. So maybe you guys want to look at the stock over here and maybe buy it.